and welcome to the Sins Review. I'm your host, Jackie Sins. So I thought I'd close out All Hallow Sins with a movie that takes place around Halloween, but isn't a horror movie. I've chosen to review the 1994 film based on a comic book series and feature the final performance of the late Brandon Lee. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at The Crow. So before I talk about the movie, I want to address the accident that happened on the set of this movie that ended the life of Brandon Lee.
Lee, who played the protagonist Eric Draven, fell victim to an unintentional gunshot wound from a prop gun fired by Michael Massey.
Massey was obviously not at fault, but he still felt very guilty, and that's perfectly understandable. It was a huge error on the prop department for not checking the prop gun to make sure that it was safe to use. Michael Massey died of stomach cancer on October 20th, 2016. It is very sad when anyone dies, especially from something that could have been avoided if people just did their jobs. I also want to briefly address another recent accident of the same nature. Cinematographer Helena Hutchins, I apologize if I mispronounced that. She was fatally shot on the set of Rust with a prop gun by star Alec Baldwin. Again, the prop department didn't do their job properly to make sure that the gun was safe to use and didn't have any live ammunition, and fortunately an innocent person had to pay the price. So rest in peace, Helena. My thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. So going back to what happened to Brandon Lee, when he unfortunately was killed in that accident, the filmmakers and the editing team, they obviously had to find a way to finish the film, with all the scenes with the character of Eric Draven. And what they did was they had a body double, and they used digital technology to place Brandon Lee's face on that body double so that they could finish some of the scenes that way. Now, I have not read the Crow comics, but I am somewhat familiar with the lore and the mythos with the story.
The movie opens with Rochelle Davis, who plays Sarah.
She gives a sort of opening narration. Some people say that when a person dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes when that tragedy is so great, that soul carries great sadness and it cannot rest. When this happens, sometimes the crow would bring the person back from the dead to put the wrong things right.
At the scene of the crime, Police Sergeant Albrecht, played by Ernie Hudson, stands before a broken circular window. Eric Draven, played by Brandon Lee, and Shelley Webster, played by Sophia Shinas,
have been brutally attacked in their apartment on Devil's Night, the night before their wedding, which would have been Halloween night. Eric is pronounced dead at the scene, having been stabbed, shot, and put through the 3-story window. Shelley is still alive for now, but in critical condition, having been beaten, cut, and raped. I guess the head detective.
Torres, played by Marco Rodriguez, butts in.
This dude is just a fucking asshole. Like, all we ever see him do is berate Albrecht. Sarah enters the picture just as Shelley is about to be taken into the ambulance. Shelley asks Albrecht to tell Eric to take care of Sarah. Eric and Shelley were friends of Sarah's who basically took care of her because her mother, Darla,
Played by Anna Thompson.
is a junkie who neglects her. So basically, Eric and Shelley were more like parents to Sarah than Sarah's own mother. And now they're both dead. The people who committed this atrocity are
T-Bird, played by David Patrick Kelly. Funboy, played by Michael Massey. Tintin, played by Lawrence Mason. And Skank, played by Angel David.
These guys are a part of a violent inner city gang. They start fires, they murder, rob, and all that terrible shit on Devil's Night. On the anniversary of their deaths, Sarah visits Eric and Shelley's graves to pay her respects. A crow perches onto Eric's gravestone, and you can tell where that's going. Sergeant Albrecht is like a surrogate father to Sarah now that Eric and Shelley are dead. I mean, it seems like he's the only one really looking out for her. Darla, in the meantime, works at a bar called The Pit where T-Bird and his gang hang out and down live bullet rounds for some reason. Darla and Funboy are dating and they obviously do drugs together. Let's get to the main part of the story where our protagonist, Eric Draven, is brought back to life by the Crow. Now, there are clear stages in this resurrection that are being portrayed here. The fear, the confusion, the remembering, and the emotional anguish. The Crow guides him back to the apartment. What I really like is throughout this film, we get to see all of the memories Eric and Shelley had together, and even though she's still dead, we still get to see the chemistry between them and really begin to care about what has happened to them. Of course, Eric remembers what those men did to Shelley and to him, and he begins his transformation into the iconic vigilante that we all know today.
He puts on the iconic makeup, dresses in black before seeking out the murderers and avenging his and Shelley's deaths.
The Crow is an action and revenge fantasy, and there is violence, and there's a point to that violence. None of it's really glorified because the protagonist is a tragic character trying to put the wrong things right, but it's still pretty enjoyable to watch the action scenes. The story is very poignant, and I cry every time I watch it. And also, seeing how people grieve for the ones they loved is totally relatable. The performance of a young Rochelle Davis as Sarah just blew my mind. The characters work very well off of each other, especially Eric and Sarah.
I gave this to Shelley once. I think she'd like you to have it. This way you'll always remember her.
I'll never take it off.
I also really love the soundtrack, which includes bands like The Cure and Nine Inch Nails, basically rock and heavy metal, with a few softer songs as well. The message is also very powerful. If you love someone, the best way to honor them is to keep their memory alive. The body may be gone, but the person never truly is. I can't recommend this movie enough. I really don't care what anyone else says. I love it. I give The Crow full sins. This has been the Sins Review. I'm Jackie Sins, and it can't rain all the time.